Hi people, welcome to the Run Test. It's Kieran here, and in this video we are putting Hoka's brand new pebax plated daily trainer, the HOKA Mach X, up against an older nylon plated favourite on the channel, the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3. Now if you're considering whether these two shoes should be for you, we're here to help you out, work out which one you should buy, if at all any. So hit play to get our verdict on the HOKA Mach X versus the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3. So first up, some quick details then. The HOKA Mach X come with a 5mm drop, that's 37mm in the heel, 32mm in the forefoot for the women's shoe, that's 39mm in the heel and 34mm in the forefoot in the men's shoe. By comparison, the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3 have a higher 8mm drop but a lower stack with 36mm in the heel and 28mm in the forefoot. When it comes to weight, in our UK men's size 8.5 test shoe, the Mach 5 weigh 9.1 ounces or 258 grams, while the Endorphin Speed are lighter at 8.4 ounces or 237 grams. When it comes to price, the HOKA Mach X, £160 in the UK, $180 in the US. The Speed 3's RRP is £165 or $170, but you can now find them much cheaper. So let's have a quick look at how these two shoes compare and contrast then. And when it comes to the uppers, the HOKA Mach X have a Creole Jacquard upper. It's got quite a pleasant soft lining on the inside and there's a little more structure to the outside layer. They're pretty light, pretty breathable, all good. The Speed 3 have a single layer mesh upper. Both of these shoes have half gusseted flat lay tongues. The Mach X has a nice little padded detail to prevent lace pinch on the top of the tongue. The heel collars both have medium padding. I'd say there's a little more on the HOKA Mach X. It's a little softer and a little smoother. There's a heel counters in both of these that are both pretty similar for hold and support as well. And they both have pretty standard lacing in the same setups. When it comes to the midsoles, the Mach 5 has a Pro Fly X midsole with a pebax plate sandwiched between one layer of PEBA and one layer of EVA foam. There's also an early stage Meta rocker. The Speed 3 by comparison has Power and PB foam, and that has an S-curve wing nylon plate in between it, which is designed to help stabilise and support from top to landing. You've also got Saucony Speed Roll rocker geometry there too. Flip them over onto the outsoles, and the outsoles have pretty similar and extensive coverings of thin rubber which take care of pretty much all the main impact zones.
So the fit for me in these two shoes, I'm an 8. These are both size 8 shoes. I would say in the HOKA Mach X that the 8 that I'm wearing is perfect. I definitely wouldn't size up or down. It's a HOKA. It doesn't feel particularly narrow to me, but normally with HOKA, I don't have particularly wide feet, so I don't notice the issue with narrowness. So maybe the other guys might have a view on that who've got wider feet than me. But I definitely would stay to my size 8 in this shoe because it fit perfectly and I wouldn't want to change the size of it. The Saucony Endorphin Speed 3, I'm a size 8. This is a size 8, fits fine for me. But what I would say is it's a roomier shoe. It's a bit more forgiving at the top. So for some people, it can be a little bit spacious in the forefoot, and because of that it can feel a little less stable with your foot in it. So I would stay in my size in this shoe, but it's worth taking into consideration. The Saucony Endorphin Speed 2 had a little bit of a tighter upper and a lot of people preferred that.
So on the fit of the shoe, I wear a UK 9 in both of these shoes. That's a US 9.5 in the HOKA and a US 10 in the Saucony, but it's my normal size for both brands, and on length they both fit me very well. I've got a nice amount of room in the toe box. The changes made to the Endorphin Speed 3 to make it a bit wider compared to past versions haven't suited me as someone with narrow feet. You can see I've had to really tighten the laces there to get a good hold, and I have found it a little bit loose at the heel. I've had a bit of heel rub with the shoe. It's just a bit wider than I really need. The Mach X probably fits me a bit better in that regard. HOKA tend to make shoes a little bit narrower than others, but I don't think this is a super narrow shoe for HOKA. I think it'll probably get on with most foot types. And I've had a really good, secure lockdown fit with the Mach X around the heel and everywhere. So very happy with the fit all round of the Mach X. The Endorphin Speed can be a little bit loose at the back if you have a narrow foot, I think, but overall I would stick to my normal running shoe size with both of them.
So fit for me, I ran in a UK 8.5, which is my regular size, and I would recommend going true to size in both of these shoes. If anything I have to say on fit, I think the HOKA Mach X runs a little snugger. It's a little bit tighter around the kind of toe knuckle, that bit across the midfoot. The Saucony Endorphin Speed are much more roomy in the toe box. There's definitely more room as you sort of just move into the toe box, more wiggle room, I think, across the top of the toes. And overall they just feel a little bit more spacious, but I would still recommend going true to size, both of them. Now for the run test then, I've literally run thousands of miles in the Speed 3. These were the shoes that I used to run the Danube River. It was 67 marathons in 67 days last year. I've not done quite as many in the HOKA Mach X, but I have clocked around 30 miles in them. And in both of these shoes, I've covered a range of paces, a range of terrain, and pretty much put them through sort of similar tests apart from that big mileage. I've also done a side-by-side mile with one shoe on each foot, and this is what I found when I did that. So I've just done my side-by-side mile, and there's a few things to say here. Both super comfortable on the feet, actually. There's not a lot to choose between comfort. As I said in fit, I think the HOKA Mach X come up a little bit tighter. I think the heel hold is a little bit more snug. It's a bit more snug across the top of the foot. There's a little bit less room in the toe box. It's a bit more kind of race fit than the Endorphin Speed 3, which is a bit more roomy. There's definitely a little bit more flex, a little bit more wiggle room in the toe box. So if you like it a bit more spacious, then I think the Speed 3 are going to be probably more for you than the HOKA Mach X. Now, in terms of the ride of these shoes, the thing that I'm really surprised about is you don't really notice the difference in the drop. Obviously, you've got like a 5mm drop on the Mach X. You've got that 8mm drop in the Speed 3. I don't think when you're actually running that you feel the difference. Even standing here, you can't really feel it's not that distinguishable. Now, there's one thing I do think that's distinguishable from these shoes, and that's with the HOKA Mach X. I think that ProFly X midsole foam, I think it locks and reacts a little bit quicker than the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3. And there's just a little bit more presence with the rocker. You can feel the rocker a little bit more. It's sort of, you feel that sort of curved under the midfoot area. And I think that kind of engages a little bit quicker than in the Speed 3. It makes the shoes feel sort of slightly firmer, but they also respond a bit quicker when your foot lands. There's, the engagement comes faster than you get with the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3, which just feels, by comparison, just a little bit sinkier, a little bit softer, a little bit slower to respond, I think. So if you like that kind of quick response and quick reaction, then you're going to get that, I think, with the HOKA Mach X. I do think it makes them feel ever so slightly, and I'm talking really sort of small margins here, but ever so slightly firmer than the Speed 3. And the other thing, I think you definitely feel the rocker of the HOKA Mach X a lot more pronounced than you do on the Speed 3. When it comes to stability, I wouldn't say there's too much to choose between them. I think you've got a similar platform to land on. I think they both engage in the same way. I was trying to work out whether or not I feel like the Mach X are a bit kind of softer in the heel, a little bit more wobbly if you're landing further back, but again, I don't think that's necessarily the case. And then when it comes to durability, I've obviously run thousands of miles in the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3. I managed to run, I think, about 1,200 miles in 2 pairs. They held up really well. I did 600 miles in each of those shoes. There's a video on the channel here that's like a 600 mile plus test of the Speed 3. So durability on those, I think, is absolutely bang on. I've not run as much in the HOKA Mach X, but they do feel like a durable shoe as well. I feel like the midsole's going to, get a good amount of mileage out of it. I think there's plenty of rubber coverage on the outsole. I'm not seeing too much wear so far. So again, I think these are both good durable shoes, and there's probably not going to be a huge amount to choose between them.
Okay, so there aren't many shoes out that are a really good comparison with the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3. There's a lot of daily shoes out there that are versatile, and you can do racing and daily training runs in them. But when it comes to the actual feel of the shoe and what the shoe is designed for, the Speed line has been sort of topped the charts for most people for a long time, for ticking all those boxes. A lot of people pick it up as a daily shoe that they can do everything in. So you might only have it as your one trainer, and you might race in it. You might do easy runs in it. It just does a great job at all of those different things. And the reason is it feels really, it's not really light, but it just feels like very efficient. Nice bit of propulsion from the plate and the foam, and it's an excellent training partner to shoes like the Saucony Endorphin Elite and the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3, just because it can do everything, and it just feels really solid on the feet. The only thing I would say about the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3 is that because of the upper changes, making it a little bit looser, it does feel a little bit less stable than I got from the Endorphin Speed 2. Not massively. I still don't have major problems in this at all, but if you've got narrow feet, you might notice it more than me. Other than that, it is just a really nice solid shoe. Lasts a while. I've done quite a lot of runs in this shoe and not had any issues in it at all, and I found that it works great from if you're going for a recovery run all the way up to race day. You can run quite fast in this shoe quite comfortably, and it definitely is not a slouch when it comes to running fast. Previously, we talked about the Mach 5 and the Speed 3 and loads of other daily shoes that are quite versatile. The HOKA Mach 5 was a great shoe for daily training because it didn't have a plate in, and people liked the more natural feel because it was still really fast and felt really lightweight, and you could really do faster runs in it. I did a lot of my faster training sessions for Chicago Marathon in the HOKA Mach 5, and it was great for those. And I really liked not training in a carbon plate all the time and then saving my carbon plate training for some of the harder efforts or for race day. Now the Mach X comes in. HOKA have done this with some of the shoes previously, like the HOKA Bondi X, where they've put a carbon plate in the shoe. And didn't really know why they did it with the Bondi. It didn't really seem to make any difference. But with the Mach X, a lot of people have talked about adding a carbon plate into the HOKA Mach 5 and making it a great daily fast shoe. And it works. It feels really good on the feet. It feels like you can really pick up the pace in this shoe. But equally, like the Speed 3, you can also do more comfortable runs in it. I've been out and done longer runs in this shoe, and it's felt completely fine. My comfortable pace of like 5-minute kilometers, but when I picked up the pace in intervals, it feels great as well. You can really go out in this shoe and go fast, and it feels really good. I think it's a great training partner for the HOKA Rocket X3. Definitely now HOKA's got a really nice duo if you're training for races and you want something to do those tempo sessions and interval sessions in before race day. I'd say both the shoes are very similar in a lot of ways in how they feel. I think the stability is very similar in both of these shoes. In fact, the feel of the shoe is in many ways pretty identical. So it's a really difficult one to choose between these two shoes. And there's really nothing that stand out about the two that I would pick. I would say that I think that the Speed 3 feels a little bit more like it's rolling you forward due to that design. It has bit more of a rocker design to it than I think the HOKA Mach X has. There's not a lot in it. I definitely could probably do pretty much the same paces in both these shoes, but I think it just feels a little bit more efficient in the Speed 3 than the HOKA Mach X. Other than that, outsole seems very good. It's quite a similar level of outsole rubber on both of these shoes. Had no issues with that at all. I've not really ran in the rain or anything in these shoes, but on normal dry asphalt, it's absolutely fine. And the upper is very comfortable as well.
So the Endorphin Speed 3 really has set the tone for the category of shoes we're talking about with these two shoes, which is this daily trainer or speedy trainer that uses the tech from carbon super shoes in less aggressive shoes that you can use for a nice mix of your training runs. It's pretty much the perfect version of that shoe so far. It's got that really nice, bouncy, comfortable PEBA midsole, really nice rocker that helps you roll through runs, and then a nylon plate that isn't quite as aggressive as a carbon one, so you can use it for easy runs as well as speedy ones. It's a great shoe. Like, I have slight problems with the Speed 3's fit compared to the past versions of the shoe, but actually in terms of performance, it's still, for me, just as good as the Speed 2 and 1 in that you can go out and run really fast runs in this shoe, do track reps, hard tempo runs, races even, but then you can drop that speed right down to very slow paces and it's still an enjoyable shoe to run around in. The rocker works really well. It's a little bit more stable than past versions with the winged plate. Don't really have a lot to fault about it apart from the fit and maybe some of the colourways decisions that Saucony has made in recent years. One of the shoes that did provide a bit of competition without having a plate was the Mach 5. So when HOKA announced the Mach X with a PEBA plate, some PEBA foam in the midsole, big high stack compared to the Mach 5, even high stack than the Saucony actually, I thought it was going to be a really strong contender with the Endorphin Speed 3. Actually, it hasn't quite turned out to be the case in my running with it. I really like using it for daily runs, easy runs, but I do find when I try and up the pace in the Mach X, it just lacks a little bit. It's not that nimble, it feels quite big, and it doesn't have an explosively bouncy feeling underfoot that you would expect to almost counteract how big it is on the foot. You get a nice bouncy feeling and it makes that weight disappear, but really it's more of a rocket shoe, I think, than a particularly squishy and springy one. And when it comes to running harder paces, I do find it lacks a little bit compared to the Endorphin Speed 3, which is nimble, light, turns over really speedily when you're running fast, and provides a nice amount of pop from the foam in combination with what is also an excellent rocker on the shoe in Saucony Speed Roll Rocker. So I think the Mach X just loses out a little bit when it comes to the faster runs. I think I probably slightly prefer it to the Speed 3 for pootling around on daily training runs, easy runs. I think it's got a big wide base. It feels very supportive and protective for such a high stack shoe. I've not had any concerns about stability with it. It feels very grounded and comfortable, but like I say, it then loses out a little bit when it comes to pushing the pace a bit, which is really where you want these shoes to shine. Like, it's great that they can do the easy end of your daily training and be great for rolling around in, but they've also got to do the fast stuff really well, and the Mach X does it well, but not that well, and the Speed 3 does it really, really well. My verdict on these two shoes is I will still be getting the Endorphin Speed 3 ahead of the HOKA Mach X. I think the Mach X's strengths are that it's probably a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more stable and better for easy stuff, maybe long stuff at easy paces, but the Speed 3 still does those runs well, and it's got more pace when it comes to your faster training. And in this category of these plated trainers, you want them to be good at the fast stuff. There's going to be a lot of competition. We're going to do a lot of videos on shoes in this area in the coming weeks. A lot of shoes are going to come out and take their shot at the Speed 3, try and knock it off its perch as the best plated trainer out there. But the Mach X has taken its shot, and for me, I don't think it quite manages it. So I'll be sticking with the Speed 3 myself. Mach X is a good shoe. I think HOKA still has a little bit to do in this category to catch up to the likes of the Speed 3.
Okay, my verdict on these two shoes is a really difficult one. They're two very similar shoes, and I think I'd really struggle to pick one of these if I had to go out and do a training session in one of these options. I think I'd probably, I think I'm still going to go for Saucony Endorphin Speed 3 for now, just because I think that rolling motion you get from it, I think it just has it feels a little bit more fluid for me. It feels a little bit more like it's tipping you forward, and just is probably better for those longer sessions where you just want to keep going at a nice consistent pace. But there's very, very little in it. I think they're very comparable shoes. I think you'd be happy with both of these shoes. And I'd probably say that the Mach X for me, it's probably a little bit better at the slower stuff. Not massively either. There's not a lot in it. But I think it really comes down to if you just like the feel of that rolling motion of the Speed 3, or slightly lessened in the Mach X. But I think it really just comes down to price. I think they're two very equivalent shoes, and I think you'd be happy with both of them.
So my verdict then, I have to say I'm a big fan of both of these shoes. I think they're really well matched in a lot of ways. I think you could buy either of these and you won't be disappointed with the comfort, the ride, or in fact the versatility that they offer. Full disclosure, I've got a very special relationship with the Speed 3, having run across Europe in them. But I've also really enjoyed the HOKA Mach X. Running them fresh out of the box, they're a happy shoe straight away. I think it's quite difficult to actually pick a winner here. But choosing between these two shoes, to me, comes down to a couple of things. For me, the ride of the Mach X is a little bit more immediate. I think it engages quicker, it has a little more stiffness. I think there's more under the ball of the foot. I think the rocker's a little bit more pronounced, and that makes it feel like there's a little bit more under the foot directly. And despite the bigger drop, the speed actually, I think, just run marginally flatter, and the midsole is a little bit softer. There's just a shade more cushioning overall, so it's arguably a little more forgiving and protective. So that maybe makes it better for longer, slower runs, where the Mach X may be better suited to shorter, faster efforts. You could do both of those in both these shoes though. However, I don't think one shoe is really better than the other. I think they're both kind of good but different. The other thing to say, I think if you want a roomier fit for longer distances, then I'd go Speed 3. They're noticeably more spacious, something I really needed when I was running the Danube. And you might if you're looking at longer time in feet in a pair of shoes, particularly if you're thinking about going ultra at all. Perhaps the deciding factor though here is going to be the price, because they're slightly older. The Speed 3 can be found much cheaper, a good chunk cheaper, in which case if you're choosing between the two of them you can get those deals. I would choose the Speed 3 over the Mach X. But if you have to pay top price, I don't think you'd be disappointed with either of these. I think they're both great shoes, and I'd almost recommend both of them. So there you have it. That has been our head-to-head of the HOKA Mach X and the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any questions, hit us up in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe and ring the bell so you get notified about when more videos are coming up. There's lots of other content around both of these shoes on the channel. If you're interested in our full review of the HOKA Mach X, that will be appearing on the channel just about now. Otherwise, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you about these shoes. Thanks for watching the run tests. We hope to see you again soon. And happy running. Good luck with whatever it is that you are trying to achieve out there with your own running.